When I first started touring back in 2002 and became a full-time musician, before that I didn't really have no real experience with drinking or alcohol. Really, I was basically, I was a computer programmer before that. I was working like 10, 12 hours a day doing that, you know, on call 24/7. So I didn't even really go out, to be honest with you, because the job was so intense. What little time I did have, I would spend doing beats, doing music, but I didn't have no experience with alcohol. So all of a sudden, I went from being a dude who worked, 10, 12 hours a day programming computers to being on stage on a huge toured atmosphere for 10 weeks straight and playing in front of, 1,000 kids every night. And that was a huge change, and it was a lot of anxiety just going through that change so fast. So all of a sudden I went from being a dude who never really touched alcohol to being a dude who had to have a drink or two before I went on stage. And that's just kind of how it all started. The best thing about being an artist is freedom. It's like the freedom you have is some shit that you can't experience at almost any other field. Entrepreneur, artist, self-employed, same thing. Just having creative freedom is something that is extremely liberating and empowering. But then there's a downside to that freedom, which is like social freedom. Too much social freedom will get you into a lot of trouble. And for me, my life turned to a point to where for a 2-year period, it only consisted of 2 activities. And the first was working on Adventures in Counterculture. And the second was going out and kicking it after I got done working on Adventures in Counterculture every day. And for me, a lot of it just had to do with the pressure that I put on myself to make Adventures in Counterculture the best piece of music, piece of art that I had ever been involved with my entire career. And that can be a lot. That can be a huge thing to take on. So a song like Keep Bouncing, to me, it's just a song where I tried to summarize that entire experience and do it in a stream of conscious way, saying a bunch of self-deprecating shit, but real shit, that was going on around me at the time, and summarizing exactly what was going on. So while I understand that everybody isn't going to be able to necessarily relate to that, I still think it's art because it's honest, Like there's nothing fake about that story or about the things that go on. And I think people who have lived that, who have been at that point that I was at, know exactly what that song is about, and they totally get what those nights are about. But I don't even know if it matters that much, because at any point, like about a year ago, I just got to the point where I was just tired of drinking and I just quit completely. So to a lot of people who kicked it with me and went out and drank and partied with me, like me stopping seems like a real abrupt kind of change, or like it came out of nowhere. But I was fed up for like a long time before I actually decided to stop or was able to stop. And when I stopped cold turkey, and I haven't drank since. I just felt like I couldn't be the man I needed to be or the musician I needed to be as long as I didn't have balance in my life, and as long as alcohol was playing that much of a role in my social life. So for that reason, it had to stop. Last fall, the tour with Atmosphere was the first tour I ever did completely sober, front to back. And it'll be the tour that I remember the most out of all the tours I've done in 9 years of touring, because I remember everything. And that's something that I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to not remembering every experience of something, Like, why work so hard to create something that's worth remembering if all you want to do is drink to the point where you forget it? It's kind of fucked up. and I don't want to be that guy. But I don't necessarily regret my experience, because a song like Keep Bouncing, I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for going through that. And so a song like Keep Bouncing, just like a song like Radio Inactive, those songs summarize like my life, my experience. And Adventures in Counterculture is basically this album where I tell my story. So you can't tell that story without all the pieces. And that's why I don't really have any regrets about it. Like, it's just part of my story. It's part of my adventure. It's part of what's got me here. And for that, I don't regret it.